1:11, and I will call the April 2nd, 2000 order. We have the following board members with us today. Vice Chair Giraldo.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Commissioner Okoye.
Good afternoon.
Commissioner Matthews.
Good afternoon.
And Commissioner Jenkins.
Good afternoon.
And for the record, I am Chairman Barnes. We will now move forward with the business at hand. Please note that the deadline for all participation, pre-registration, and for submission of all materials and exhibits was 12 noon on Tuesday before the Planning Board meeting. The order of cases for today's meetings are as follows: items 2, 4, and 5. The next item on the agenda is item 2, draft minutes of March 26. I look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes of the March 26, 2026 meeting.
Mr. Chair, I second that.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. There are no legislative updates on the agenda for this week. We will move forward to the consent agenda item. Items 4A, 4D, and 4E. Is there anyone who opposes staff recommendation on the consent agenda items? And if not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, after consideration of the record for the items on consent agenda, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve items 4A, 4D, and 4E.
So second.
It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. We will now move on to the regular agenda items. The first item on the agenda is item 5, preliminary plan of subdivision PPS-2025-0022 RST New Carrollton, and we will hear from staff. Mr. Bartlett.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, I am Jason Bartlett with the subdivision section. Item number 5 on the agenda is a preliminary plan of subdivision for RST New Carrollton, PPS-2025-0022. This subdivision proposes one parcel for mixed-use development consisting of 300 multifamily dwelling units and 3,000 square foot of non-residential use. This application is also subject to an approved certificate of adequacy under case number 80Q-2026-007, which was approved in accordance with the subdivision regulations to ensure that infrastructure necessary to support the proposed development is adequate in accordance with established level of service standards. Before I continue, as a matter of housekeeping, staff received one item of additional backup for this case prior to the noon deadline on March 31st, 2026. This item has been entered into the record as Applicant's Exhibit 1 and is a letter from the applicant requesting revisions to 2 of staff's recommended conditions of approval, specifically Conditions 6 and 7, which staff are in agreement with. Conditions 6 and 7 are related to the cleanup of contaminants from the site pursuant to the Maryland state requirements. In conclusion, subdivision staff recommend that the planning board adopt the findings and approve PPS-2025-0022 and Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan TCP1-2025-0033, subject to the conditions contained in the technical staff report with revisions to conditions 6 and 7 as provided in applicant's Exhibit 1. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the planning board? Seeing none, we will now hear from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Howler.
Turn it on.
It's a button on the top, Tom.
No.
Nope. I think it's
Is it on? Okay. Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board, good afternoon. My name is Thomas Haller. I'm an attorney with the offices in Largo, and I'm here today representing RST Development with this preliminary plan of subdivision application. We have several team members that are either here or online. I have Mr. Danny Copeland, who is with RST, and online we have Mr. Michael Lenhart, who is our traffic consultant, and Chandler Beaufort, who's with our engineering firm of VICA. The application that's before you today, which you can see on the screen, is a 4.29 acre parcel of land. It's on the south side of Annapolis Road, very near Veterans Highway and the Glen Ridge Purple Line Station. The property has been known for the last 50 years as the East-West Lincoln Mercury dealership, and RST is proposing to take that property, which is already subdivided as a single lot, and re-subdivide it in order to facilitate the development of 300 multifamily dwelling units and 3,000 square feet of nonprofit or community use space. This is the second application that we filed related to this project. Last year we processed a zoning map amendment application, which was referenced as ZMA 2024-003, to rezone the property from the NAC zone, Neighborhood Activity Center, to NACPD zone, Planned Development Zone. The developer of this project is RST Development. RST Development is a family-owned local developer, and Danny represents the third generation of RST. And they have been active in Prince George's County and are continuing to pursue opportunities in Prince George's County. Their most recent development is called the Flats at College Park. It's located on US 1, and it was an opportunity to take 3 less than desirable hotels, I'll say it that way, and convert them into a premier affordable housing project with community use space. If you haven't driven by it, it's on the northern end of Route 1. It's amazing, it's spectacular. And they're looking to replicate a similar opportunity here, because just like in that instance, on this property, we have an auto-oriented use, which is now closed, right next to a Purple Line station, a proposed Purple Line station. And this gives us the opportunity to provide a transit-oriented development with an improved streetscape, just literally steps from the transit station. One thing that I would like to note for the board's information is when we came in with this application, one of the requirements that we had as part of the ADQ that Mr. Bartlett mentioned is to do a bicycle and pedestrian impact statement where we analyze the pedestrian network in the area. As part of our community outreach, we went to the budding community, which is the West Lanham Hills community, and if you look at the arrows, they're to the behind us and to the right, and we asked them if there were any pedestrian improvements that they felt were necessary in their community, and they were absolutely wonderful. They surveyed their entire neighborhood and sent us pages of photographs of improvements that they wanted to see to upgrade the pedestrian network in West Lanham Hills. And so we took our transportation consultant, Mr. Network, took those recommendations, and if you look at the conditions that are contained in the certificate of adequacy, you will see a number of intersection improvements, pedestrian improvements, and that came directly from the West Lanham Hills community. So we're very happy to be able to do that. The last thing that I wanted to mention relates to the next step in the process. We will be filing a detailed site plan that will be coming before you as soon as we can get it before you, hopefully by the end of the fall. And so the details will be there at that time. But I do want to note, because I know it's important to the planning board, that we will have dog park and dog facilities incorporated into that detailed site plan. In the project that they did in College Park, they had a dog run there as well. And they're in the final design of the site, and they have located an area where they will have a dog facility. So we'll bring the details of that to you when we come to the planning board. The final thing I want to mention is that staff referenced conditions 6 and 7, and I want to explain the revisions that we proposed. Not surprisingly, this property has had an automobile dealership on it for the past 50 years. And unsurprisingly, there is some contamination on the property related to prior use with oils and various other fluids associated with vehicles. The state of Maryland has 2 programs for cleanup of contaminated sites. One of them is the Voluntary Cleanup Program, or VCP, and the other one is the Controlled Hazardous Substances Program, or CHS. RST is currently pursuing the Voluntary Cleanup Program, but it's possible as they go through that program that they may switch to the CHS program. The conditions that were written, conditions 6 and 7, only reference the remedies of the Voluntary Cleanup Program. And we want to make sure we have the flexibility, if we do switch programs, to be able to conform with either one. So the condition just adds reference to the CHS program. So we didn't want to be in a situation where if we switched programs, that we would then not conform to the conditions of approval. But under either program, the site will be cleaned up as part of the redevelopment of the property. So I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have any, Mr. Copeland is here also to answer any questions that you may have. And with the minor revisions to conditions 6 and 7, we support staff's findings and staff's recommendation.
Are there any questions from the planning board?
I have one question. What is the difference between the voluntary and the controlled cleanup?
So, Commissioner, that's not my area of expertise, but my understanding is the voluntary cleanup program is a very comprehensive program. And the one thing that the developer gets out of using the voluntary cleanup program is they get protection, liability protection. It basically gives them, once they clean up the site to the satisfaction of MDE, they cannot be sued later on for any of the prior acts of somebody else. Whereas the Controlled Hazardous Substances program is more of a targeted cleanup, but it doesn't provide quite the same level of protection from future suits. The reason that they may switch, or they could switch to the CHS program as opposed to the voluntary cleanup program, is that the voluntary cleanup program could require them to scrape the entire property. And the back of the property, there are existing woodlands that will provide a buffer to the community, and we want to preserve those woodlands. So if they end up in a situation where they can clean up the contamination, even though in theory it doesn't give them quite the same protection, long-term liability, but without having to take the trees down, they may pursue that. As of right now, the testing that they've done doesn't show any contamination in that area, and they're probably going to stay in the VCP program, but they wanted to have the flexibility of using that program so they can preserve the trees.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions from the planning board?
Thank you.
Seeing none, and I don't believe there is none in opposition of this, is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve PPS-2025-0022 and TCP-1-2025-0033, subject to the conditions recommended in the staff report and findings as amended by applicant's Exhibit 1.
I second it. It's been properly moved and second. I will now call the roll. Vice Chair Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Okoye. I vote aye. Commissioner Jenkins.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
I vote aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you so much. This concludes all items on today's agenda. I'd like to thank the staff and all those that came out today. The time is now 1:23, and the meeting is now adjourned.